When we grow up, we want to find a job that we love and enjoy going to every day. After people have worked at the same job for so long, what continues to be their drive for attending work every day? Sure, they may love their job that much, or it could be based on the relationships they have built within their work group. The title of my research article was Not So Bad After All: How Relational Closeness Buffers the Association Between Relationship Conflict and Helpful and Deviant Group Behaviors, written by Sonia Rispens, Lindra Greer, Karen Jen, and Sherry Thatcher. The journal within the article appears is Negotiation and Conflict Management Research, November 2011, Volume 4, Issue 4. The question that these researchers were investigating was whether relational closeness in work groups buffers the negative association between relationship conflict and two overlooked behaviors: group-level helping behavior and counterproductive work behavior. For the independent variables, the researchers used multiple items to measure the relationship conflict. They used a sample item which asks, how much conflict over personal issues is there in a group? The responses were measured on a 7-point scale ranging from not at all to a lot. The dependent variables that were measured was the helping behavior using 4 items based on the Interpersonal Organizational Citizenship Behavior Scale by Williams and Anderson. The researchers changed the wording of the scale so it was appropriate for group-level evaluation. A sample of something the scale was changed to was, the work group members help others who can be absent. On this graph, responders answered on a 7-point scale. Another dependent variable that was measured was the supervisors to indicate the group level of counterproductive behavior. The supervisor answered questions reflecting the frequency with which the group he or she was supervising engaged in the different types of counterproductive behavior. Questions that the researchers substituted were, had members of this group occasionally skipped work, or things like, had members of this group intentionally worked slowly. These researchers came up with 2 hypotheses that they wanted to test. The first hypothesis was predicted that the negative association between relationship conflict and group-level helping behavior is moderated by relational closeness such that the negative association between relationship conflict and group-level helping behavior is weaker in relationally close relationships. This means that the researchers predicted that coworkers were less willing to help other coworkers if they were not part of a relationally close atmosphere. The other hypothesis predicted that the positive association between relationship conflict and group-level counterproductive work behavior is moderated by relational closeness such that the positive association is weaker for relatively close work groups. This means that group-level counterproductive behavior is lower in relationally close relationships than in relationally distant relationships. The article states that counterproductive work behavior is the overall level of group members' acts that hinder the effective functioning of the work groups. An example the article gives would be when work groups take long breaks or when members of the groups try to leave early without regarding the group goals and deadlines. The research method that these researchers came up with was gathered from a telecommunications company in Netherlands. 26 work groups participated in this survey, which amounted to 117 individuals. All of the people who were surveyed were part of a business unit responsible for sales and services of telephone, internet, and television service to private and business customers nationwide. The surveys were distributed during work hours and were collected by researchers right after the day was ended. If a respondent was absent, their survey was sent over email, which had a 100% response rate. Surveys were then translated from Dutch to English. The questionnaire was also distributed to supervisors to measure the dependent variables. All the questionnaire was done voluntarily, and both of these hypotheses that the researchers gathered were proved correct, and the relational closeness did have an effect on the relationship conflict. I think an ethical concern that these researchers should have been aware of was whether or not the questionnaire was going to be unanimous or not. If the survey was not done unanimously, respondents could have lied about relational conflict that took place within their work group. I believe the element that would have most interested a sociologist would be if gender would have an effect on the relational conflict that took place in a work group. I think this would interest sociologists because for them to find out if the amount of males or females in a workplace would affect relational conflict, they could be aware of how to possibly decrease the relationship and counterproductive behavior. If I were to reconstruct this research method, instead of just surveying people who are part of the business field, I would get a larger group of respondents from all different fields of expertise. I believe this research method would relate to a larger audience and interest more people rather than just business people. After I graduate college, I hope to go either in the field of education or communications, and I think with both of these jobs, it is important for me to create as much of a welcoming environment as I can. The relational closeness that I can try to create will hopefully result in a higher group level helping behavior versus a counterproductive work behavior.
Thank you.